I've been saying for a long time now, I want to show how I do my mix in the computer and how it shows the difference between what the drums really sound like and how all the magic happens so that it comes out the way you guys hear it. So I'm going to start with showing all the microphones, and we'll show like some other stuff. I've already done videos on how we put the studio together. I'll put a link to that in the description. I've already shown like the heads on the drums and how I do certain things and all kinds of stuff. So I won't get into that, but I am going to talk a lot about the microphones, and then I'm going to play a little bit, and I'm going to show how it sounds in the room and then how it sounds on the computer and how to get to that point. So on each channel, you're going to hear something that sounds weird. And you're going to be like, that ain't right. But then you're going to hear where the other channels might mix with it, and all of a sudden now it's starting to sound better. And then you're going to hear like reverb on the snare, like really high, but you'll see where the music covers that up. Also, before I get into this, I got to say one thing. This is the area where I know the least amount of stuff. So what you guys are going to see on the computer, you're probably going to laugh at. And if you guys want to help me in any way, that's fine. I think I'm getting a decent sound right now, but when you see what's going on the computer, you'll see what I'm talking about, and you guys are going to start laughing. So I had to say that first because I really don't know what I'm doing in this particular area when it comes to mixing, all right? So we're going to start with these microphones up here. When Andrew was still living here, he bought a microphone pack, and it's the Sennheiser 604 pack. This is for a 5-piece kit, and I think it came with the bass drum mic, which we'll get to in a minute. I'm not quite sure exactly what that is. I think it came with those. We have 2 Rhodes as overheads up here in an XY. Now I've tried to separate these before into, what do you call it, where you have one here, and then you like measure from the snare up, you know, to get them kind of the same distance from the snare so you get the middle of the set. I didn't think it sounded as good. These overheads, also in the older videos, you'll see where the pole is over there, and the overheads were actually about right here over the drums. They were kind of almost over the snare in a way. I was having trouble picking up the cymbals, so I moved them to the front, and now you can see where they're almost here. They're still in an XY, and I've tried whatever the other one is where they're the opposite ways too. I forgot what that one's called, that pattern. I've tried to separate them and tried everything. Right now, for whatever reason, these microphones are better in an XY. I would love more microphones to maybe separate this out a little bit more, but that's okay. We have this microphone over here. This is a room mic. This is a condenser mic. This is some type of Audio-Technica AT, like 5050 or whatever you call those. This was originally bought, this is the XLR one. They also have a USB version of this exact mic, and it has this little pop filter on it because this was originally made for talking on the computer. That's what we bought it for live streaming and stuff, gaming and Twitch and all that stuff. Well, it wasn't being used for a while when the kids moved out, so I decided to use it as a room mic. And it came about because I was having so much trouble with this bass drum, and I think it's the wood that this is made out of. This pearl set, this is not an export, this is like a BLX or an MLX or something. It's the one with the 10 lug bass drum and the deep toms, but I tried all kinds of different head combos on this, and I think it's the wood itself that makes this bass drum sound so bad. So I decided to have the room mic, and I used to have it lower to try and get more of that boominess from the outside of the bass drum. It still didn't work. So now I'm using it more to pick up the cymbals and not so much the drums, and you'll see on the EQ how that kind of works and how that's mixed together. But that's what that is up there. I turned on the light down here so we could see inside the bass drum, but what this light normally does is you can see this GoPro mount right there, and that's about the view that you guys get on the videos when I'm doing double bass. I don't always use that angle or that camera. I only do it for certain songs. But I turned the light on so we could see inside here. And I know this looks really stupid. These are homemade counterweights because I had to extend these all the way in. I wanted these right next to each other for a reason, which you'll see in the mix. The regular bass drum mic usually goes out here into the port, or just outside the port. And then the other microphone, sometimes you could put one on the batter side or something. You'll normally have another microphone like way out here. And one's gonna pick up kind of more of the hit, and one's gonna pick up more of the boom. That's what I was trying to do originally with this mic. Nothing was working. So what I did was I put these right next to each other, and the big one's picking up the boom, and the little one is picking up the hit. It's not quite a clicky sound, but it sounds pretty good. And originally, I had the smaller microphone on this side. It was working out really well until I actually went to do something once, and it picked up way too much of the bottom snare, and I couldn't even gate it correctly to get rid of it. So that's how those are set up, and that other microphone in there is also what's on top of the snare. Now I call these fake 57s. These are made by Pyle. This is a PDMIC 7.8. And the reason why I call them fake 57s, it looks like a 57. The frequency range on these is exactly like a 57, except for on the high end. It goes higher on the spectrum. These are also plastic. A real 57 is metal. Those are way better for gigging. They're really heavy duty. You can throw them around. These ones you can't do that with. They're very delicate because they're plastic. But I like the sound of these better, and the kids are the ones that bought these, and I really like the frequency response on these. So that's what's in the bass drum, picking up the click. Then we have one on the top of the snare. Angled, most of the microphones, you should try and angle them to the center of the drum. Now, this all depends. If you look at the tom mics, I don't have them that way. So if you angle a tom mic to the center, you're going to get more of the stick attack, the more of the hit sound, because that's where you hit. Of course, looking at my drums, I guess I'm not hitting in the center. So when you hit here and you have the microphone aimed there, you'll hear more of this sound. I have mine angled like right to here, kind of in the middle of the rim and that, because it picks up more of the reverberation. If you have resonant heads on your drums, you will hear the reverberation. It makes it more boomy. So I have the deep toms because I like that 80s sound, and I aim the microphones more here to get more of that boom, the reverberation. So that's how those are set up. And then underneath, there's another fake 57. And it's not aimed exactly at the snares. I'm not sure if you're supposed to do that. It's actually aimed right at the side of the snares. Like right at that last one. Sorry, I can only use one hand at the moment. So that's for the bottom side. Now if you listen to that by itself in the mix, it sounds terrible. But mixed in together with the top, it sounds awesome. And you'll see that when we get to there. So that's all the microphones we're using and how we're using them. There should be 10. There's 2 in the bass drum. There's 2 overheads. There's 2 snare mics. Then you have the 3 toms and the room mic. So that's 10 microphones we're using. So I put this light here just to show this because it's dark behind here. Because the lights that we're using here, we simply use those for video purposes, so everything's facing this way for the cameras. But I put this light here just to show this because it's so dark. So this is a Behringer XR18 or something like that. This has a true 16 XLR input. So we're running these mics. There's my little labels up there of what's running where. And you know, we're running the bass, the snare, the bottom snare, and the 3 toms, the 2 overheads. And then we have the room and the bass beater. I'm simply using this as like an I/O box. This is actually a mixer. It's a digital mixer. This is simply the box. And then to use the box, you need to use that piece of software right there that comes with it for free, which is really nice. I just wanted to show something real quick. So if you're cheap like me, I'm cheap. These lamps right here, if you live in the United States, are sold at Dollar Tree. They're $1. Of course, now they're $1.25 because they raise their prices, which is no big deal. We bought these for $1, and it comes with this LED bulb. So they have these little switches. So for $1, these are awesome if you need lights around, and they're pretty bright. And you can buy these in white or black shades. I wanted to show these lights up here for a minute because these are homemade as well. I have to turn this one off so you can see it. So we bought these at like Home Depot or Lowe's, and then they come with this clamp. This clamp comes with this bowl. So you just find something to clamp it to. I actually put this on the wall to clamp it to. You could put anything up here. Heck, you can hang them from the ceiling or somehow if you want. And then you just buy the bulb you want. And I remember when we were buying bulbs, we went through different colors. You know how the color spectrum's kind of orange or kind of blue or whatever, or pure white. We got a nice, somewhat, I forget what color temperature these are, but anyway, that's an LED bulb in there, and that's a homemade lamp. So let me show the other one. This is the same exact thing, but smaller. It's just a smaller version, and put another bulb in here, just like the other one. And this is what we do all our videos with. We leave this light on, but it's dim. This light dims. It looks bright on the camera. It's actually almost all the way dim, just to give just enough down here. It's hard to see with these lights, but these lights are both aimed right almost to the center so that you can see. This is how it looks like on the videos. Here's the front camera right here, which is a GoPro 10. But this is what it looks like. It's nice and bright, and the cameras, you know, they pick it up nice. So if you're cheap like me and you want to make your own stuff, that's an idea you can do. Those lamps are $1. You can, if you want, heck, you could put like a couple of them in the front of your drum set right here, right behind the cameras. Like if your camera's here, you could put a lamp right here just to make sure, you know, if you're cheap like me. So I just wanted to show that real quick so that if you guys need some ideas that are cheap, you know, I'm all about budget. This whole studio was built on a budget. The drum set was also cheap. The cymbals were not. We did get some cymbals used on Marketplace for really cheap. Some we bought new. So they're expensive. The drums were like 250 bucks. But the studio itself, you know, I've gone through it before and showed, you know, we got PVC pipe running right here, and these are actually bed sheets. So this was all done on a super, super low budget. The slat wall was free. We had 4x8 sheets. I simply cut them in half. Those are great. We got some of these hooks for the slat wall, hangs all our stuff. I'm really particular about cords. You know, I like my stuff nice and neat, except for here for some reason. But I just wanted to go through that real quick. If you're cheap like me, there you go. So what I'm gonna do right now is I got the phone running and I got a 10 running, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hit all the drums just so you guys can see what it sounds like in the room, what the drums really sound like. And then I'll mix that together with the mix, and you'll see what they really sound like to you in the recording. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play over a backing track just for fun. I don't know, it's kind of random. I don't even know the song. It's going to be really improvised because I don't know it. It's just a backing track I threw in there just so I could play around the kit so that you could see what it's like when it's mixed with the music, because it changes things. And then we'll go to the computer and I'll show how all this looks on the computer side of things. So this is just going to be me improvising something slow to play so you can hear each sound. So now I'm going to play to a backing track. I'll probably mess it up because it's just improvised. Okay, I'm sorry if that sucked, but that was just improvised to whatever this song was. And now we're going to go into the computer side of things and check all that stuff out. So here we are on the computer side of things. You just heard what the drums really sound like in the room and when they are mixed. So we're going to get into that now, but we're going to go to the backing track. Now I'm showing this screen first because this is the XR18's interface. It's technically a mixer. It's not just an interface. This is a digital mixer and it's all software based. This is just like an I/O box that has a mixer with it. So I'm using it like an I/O box. So when you're looking at this screen right here and you see all these channels are down, I'm only using the trims up here. So on a regular mixing board, you'll have the trim at the top, which is the loudness of the microphone itself. And you can see as I'm talking in the room here on 7, 8, and 9, those are the overheads on 8 and 9. And 7 is Tom 3, which I'm sitting right next to. So you can actually see, you know, the levels are kind of going up and down as I'm talking, but that's because I'm sitting right here by the microphones. And then it does this stupid little thing constantly. It's a real hassle to have to deal with that. I don't know how to fix that. It's going to pop up during this whole video. But if I was to click on like channel 1, here's the input. It's just the mic gains. That's all I'm using on this mixer. The only other thing I'm doing is I'm sending it out so I can hear it in the headphones. Other than that, I'm just using this pass through. Now the other thing that's trippy is if I wanted to do live through OBS and go live on Twitch or something like that, I would have to use this and I could go through this and use all the effects on here, but I already have all my effects in Reaper and I can't do that. So let's get into Reaper now. This is just for this, to show this interface right here. These are just all the trims that I'm using. That's all I'm doing with this. And then you can see on 8 and 9, it actually has phantom power right here turned on. And then what's the room mic? Is 9. So 9, 8, and 7 have the whatchamacallit right here, the phantom power. And then you'll see when I go to these ones, it turns itself off. So let's minimize this and we're getting into Reaper. So these are the drums you just heard right here. So I'm not going to replay that because you already heard that with the video, but I just wanted to show that for a second. So we're going to go down here real quick. This is the one with the backing track on it, and what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the backing track off. I'm going to mute everybody. We're going to go through each channel one by one and their mix. And what we're going to do is zoom in here. This is the bass drum on the first track right here. What we're going to do is, if I make this line right here and I hit this little circle right here, that means it's going to repeat what's in between these two ends. So man, this is so annoying having this. This is the XR18 that does all this garbage stuff. And if someone knows how to fix that, let me know, because I switched to all new cables. I've done so much stuff. It's wired. I'm not using the wireless portion of it. It's a hassle. It doesn't affect the recording and the playback. It just, when it does that, you'll see everything gray out and I can't touch anything until it's gone. So what we're going to do, we're going to unmute the bass drum here. That's what it really sounds like with just the microphone. You can almost barely hear that. So we're going to let that run. What we're going to do is we're going to open the effects right here. I'm not going to touch the fader just so you can hear it. And we're going to go through this. And you guys are going to laugh at how some of these are set up, but this is how I get my mix. So you're going to see there's a gate on there, there's a compressor, there's EQ, and there's some reverb on there. So the gate, if you don't know what a gate is for, it's a noise gate. And what happens is if you put a microphone on top of your drum, when you hit that drum, yeah, the noise of the drum goes in there. But when you're not playing that drum, the microphone is also picking up all the cymbals, the other drums, and a bunch of stuff that you don't necessarily want. So what the gate does is you set the gate accordingly. They're all different. so that all you hear is this drum when you hit it, and it actually blocks out, almost like noise cancellation. It blocks out all the other things that you don't want. So we're going to turn the gate on, and on the bass drum, it's not really set very high. Now this is that fat bass drum microphone that's inside the bass drum, the bigger microphone. You can see I have it at a -50. It's not that high. This, if I really wanted to crank it, I'd put it up here. I'm going to leave it there. We're then going to turn on the compressor, and you're going to see the volume jump up. And you can hear the hi-hat and the snare in there. Now, the reason why I put the gate that low, I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Now when I add EQ, there's some of your boominess, and then that's the full mix right there of the big microphone in the bass drum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit mute, and we're going to go to the bass beater. Now, why is it way down here and not next to it? Well, I originally set this up as, you know, the kick, the snare bottom, the 3 toms, and the 2 overheads. And then I started adding later. Now, you could just grab this and slide this down here and put it next to it, but I don't want to do that. These are kind of like as if I added auxiliary channels in a way. Not auxiliaries, but you know what I mean? I added them, so I left them at the end. So what you're going to hear is going to sound weird by itself, but then you're going to see where when I mix it, it's going to sound great. So this is the bass beater. This is that smaller microphone in there, the fake 57 that's inside the bass drum. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to let this thing run in this loop, and I'm going to turn each thing on. Now I wanted to show this EQ because I have it boosted on the high end, and I pulled the lowness out. Now I did that because the other microphone, this one, if I hit the EQ, I have it like super boosted. I don't remember why I did this. This is a long time ago, and I've left it there. We're just going to leave it there. I want to show the compressor settings because these are, I leave this compressor setting alone. I mean, once I made my setting on it like this is all the way up, this is halfway. Other than that, the compressor's pretty much left alone, and this is copied across all channels. So all the compressors on each channel look exactly like this. So I won't show that again, I'll just turn them on. And then the reverb is different on every channel, and the gates are. But I just wanted to show that. That's the EQ for the big microphone. I also have the gain of the EQ turned up. But this, so let's get back to the bass beater now, microphone, the little microphone. There's the EQ for it. The other gate was at -50. This one's at -12. This one's really, really tight. I simply want that quick little, that's it. So you're going to hear that when I turn that on. I'll actually do that last. Let's turn the compressor on, and then on the reverb, and then I'll hit the gate. You'll see the difference. But you could still hear the snare and the hi-hat and stuff. Now watch when I turn the gate on. So what I'm going to do now is, I know that sounds weird. You're going to hear a lot of weird sounds on here until they're mixed all together. You're going to think it's really crazy sounding. So now let's listen to that and the other microphone together. This is both bass drum microphones. Now you're probably thinking a lot of that reverb and stuff is probably too much, but that's the reason why I wanted to play to the backing track. You're going to see later on in this video, a lot of that disappears. The music covers it up, so you put it in there because of that. All right, so let's go to the snare track now. This is by Air. This is just the raw microphone. Keep in mind this is the top microphone. I gotta wait for this. So here's just the microphone on the top snare. this is what the EQ looks like. Now I did this on purpose because I guess you got to turn it on. You can see where this number 2 is. That's the actual frequency of the snare. You'll see that's the loudest one. So I wanted to really boost that up. You probably shouldn't do that. You should probably cut the other frequencies, but this is what it sounds like. So now let's turn the gate on. Now that cuts pretty quick. I should probably lower that gate down a little bit. What is this at? A minus 19. That's not too bad. The normal spot is like minus 28, minus 30-ish. That's okay though. So now we're going to turn on the compressor. And like I said, they're all set the same. Oh, that one has drive down for some reason, but that's okay. For some reason, I have 2 reverbs on here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why. And the other reverb. I know that probably sounds pretty dumb. So we're going to go straight to the snare, the bottom snare mic, the fake 57 that's underneath. So it's a fake 57 on top and bottom. We are going to turn on the gate, which is set at minus 22. Here's the compressor, EQ. Now I don't know why I did this. This frequency right here is the snare frequency right there. Let's see what it sounds like. And that's the full mix. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the top and then the bottom and then both. Now the bottom. Now both. Now as far as the toms are concerned, I'm going to go ahead and just turn all these on tom 2 and tom 3 because I'm pretty sure just about all the toms are identical. So I'm going to show the bottom tom. All the toms are the same as far as like almost the gates and the EQs and the compressors. So I'm just going to show this one tom right here. That's the low tom. That's the 16-inch floor tom. So now put the gate on. Put the compressor. And the EQ. This is what makes it really boomy. That's what makes it boomy. So what I'm going to do is all the toms are about the same. I'm going to turn all of them on and you're going to hear what it really sounds. In fact, here, I'll turn off all the effects. Now I'll turn all the effects on. This is the full mix of the 3 toms. Now, on certain songs, if I play an older song that's not so much 80s, I use this for the 80s boom. I will go in here, what are these, a minus 13. I will go in here, I will turn off the EQ, and then I will go in here, and I will put this at 0. And it sounds like that. Let me mute these other toms real quick, and this sounds like more natural sounding. That's just with like compressor and stuff. So I'm going to go back in here. What was that? Minus 13. Fix that back. And turn the EQ back on. So that's all those so far. So now we're going to the overheads. And I think they're basically the same as each other. One's just left, one's right. So I'm going to turn on the right one. They are a little different only because one's picking up part of the drum set, the other one's picking up the other part of the drum set. But this is what the one overhead sounds like by itself with nothing on it. Oops, I left a tom on. So now I'll put the EQ on and the compressor. And here's the EQ for that. So I just cut out all the low stuff. I did not boost the high stuff. I had the high stuff boosted a while back and it didn't sound right. But I like the more higher from my cymbals. But you have to understand too, when you're using overheads, they're not just for cymbals. You want some of the attack of the toms to go up into them, some of that stick hit. It's not all from the tom microphones. Some of that has to go into the overhead. So that's that one. I will unmute this one. All the stuff's already set. They're the same except one's picking up more frequencies over here and one's more over there. So that's the overheads. Now for the room mic. This is the one that's going to sound really strange. And I originally was using this more for the bass drum. Now I'm using it more for the cymbals. And you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. This is by itself. So this is with the compressor. And the compressor set the same as everything else. Here's with the EQ. And you'll see how it drastically changed because I want this mostly for the cymbals. So I cut all the lows out. I actually boosted the highs. So now when I put the reverb on there, I put a ton of reverb on here. It's way up high, but then I took the dampening and turned it up. This is a weird effect to do. As you turn the wet up, it gives it more reverb, but then this dampening kind of clamps it down. So it's a weird thing to do. You can't just pump the wet up. I mean, you can. It sounds weird. Once you start adding the dampening to it, it kind of cuts it back, but it doesn't cut it. It does this weird, like compressing. It's almost like you're compressing the wet. It's really weird. I don't understand what I'm doing. I just know by playing with the knobs what I want, and this is how I have this set. And I have this on some of the other ones too. I want to say it was like the snare top. Yeah, see how the wet is way down, but the dampening is way high. It makes this weird effect. But now, let's do this again. So I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to turn the reverb on while it's playing. I know that sounds really weird in the mix. That's just by itself. And the reason why I did that is to make the cymbals ring out more. And I cannot do that in the overheads because the overheads are picking up the drums more. So you don't want all that reverb going on. So I did that just so the cymbals sound bigger. When I hit the cymbals, it gives it more of that wash. And it's just a weird little effect I came up with. Just by playing with stuff, I really don't know what I'm doing. And I'm sorry about that. I'm just playing with knobs and I'm like, hey, I like this. So I did that to the room mic. That's specifically for the cymbals. So I already went through the bass beater. The rest is all extra. And then we have the song down here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open these up so you can hear the drum mixed with the full mix, just like you heard earlier by myself. And then I'll put the song on. And I'll also, you know what, just for fun, just to show what the room mic does, I'm going to turn it on while I'm playing this real quick with the drumless song turned off. So watch, you'll hear the hi-hat. By taking the room mic and pumping up the highs and cutting out the lows, it's really keeping the hi-hat and making the hi-hat have the reverb on it. And if I go to the cymbal part, I'll do it again. Let's mute this. And that sounds fine by itself, but let's see it again with the room mic. Can't stop it. There. I couldn't stop it because of the stupid thing. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go find one cymbal by itself, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's easier to hear when it's by itself. In fact, we'll go back here because there's nothing here. It's more cleaner. See what it sounds like. So we'll go back here. This is without the drum song. This is the original piece. It's more cleaner. So I'm going to go through this, and I'll do this with the room mic that I'm talking about. You could really hear the difference on this one. So watch when it hits the crash now. It rings out really long that way. So it doesn't sound too bad. I know it sounds really weird by itself, but once you kick the song in with it, it really pushes a lot of that stuff back, especially all the reverbs. It'll push them down so you don't hear them so much. So we're going to play this. I'm going to kick the song on. So what you're going to notice, for you guys that really know what you're doing, you're going to notice I had a lot of yellows. You're not supposed to go into the yellow. Everything should stay green. Nothing should go that high. You should never boost things that high, and I know that. You should always cut things. When you're EQing, you should cut and not boost. Cut the frequencies you don't want to hear. Same with mixing. When you're mixing down here with the faders, you don't want to be like, well, this isn't loud enough, let me boost it. You should take everything else and lower it so that that thing comes out more. You don't want to boost and overload things. But you're going to see on my mix, I'm going to show it again without the drumless song behind it. You're going to see how everything is actually boosted, and there's a lot of yellows. And one other thing I want to mention before I end this video is we have this channel 19 way over here, this drum bus. Matt actually made this for me, which was really nice. All of these channels, 1 through 10, go into this drum bus. I'll show you what this looks like if I can. It's a final compressor. It's a final compressor. And you can actually change the levels in here. How much do you really want it to compress? It's really not a lot. I have a couple things boosted just a touch, but not too much. And it's just a nice little thing. I'm not talking about compressing like in the 80s with the loudness wars. This just gives it a nice little clean thing. The drum bus then goes to the master. All of these go to the master. They don't all just go to the drum bus and then to the master. All of these go to the master and the drum bus together. I think that's how it goes. But that's how I've got this sound going on. And I'm going to play this in a second. You're going to see all the yellows, and the drum bus shouldn't be yellow, but most of these channels down here are all going to be yellow. I got to wait for this stupid thing. It's very annoying. There's a lot of yellow going on. You shouldn't have that, okay? Don't do what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So we'll listen to that one more time with the song. have it. That's my full mix. I know I don't know what I'm doing. You guys are going to laugh at it. Don't copy me, but I hope that can get your brain going if you're playing an acoustic kit of how to get a lot of these sounds out of your kit. This has taken me a good couple of years to learn all this. I mean, I'm not even learning. I just play with things. I really don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the time to go on YouTube. I want to learn how to do this. I just do it. I just play with things and I do it. And if you ask Jamie the guy, he knows that too. As we were growing up, we'd be in studios and stuff and I would just play with stuff all day and learn how to use it. So I know if you really know what you're doing, maybe you can give me some pointers. I don't know. I can always, resave a second mix and start playing with stuff. That's usually what I do. I'll rename it and there you have it. So I know you guys who really know what you're doing are going to laugh at this, but that's how it is. I just wanted to show how I get the sound I got right now. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it helps somebody somewhere. I love everybody's comments, whether you hate it or not. I love all the comments. All comments are good. All right. Later, people.